Welcome in this Tuesday edition, Oxford Exxon podcast. Chase Parham and Neal McCready, sort of the Clark Ford studio this morning. We'll tell you about Clark Ford in just a minute. Ole Miss-South Carolina preview, the Rebels and the Gamecocks, 5:30 today from Colonial Arena there in Columbia, South Carolina. Again, 5:30 Central, a little different start time because of the Eastern time zone. And the early game there on SEC Network, Kentucky and Vanderbilt, the back half of that doubleheader. We'll talk about that. We will hit the Dartmouth ruling yesterday, the National Labor Relations Board coming out and saying that they are employees, the basketball team there at Dartmouth, and they can unionize. What does that potentially mean? What do we know about history when it comes to that? We'll give you our best guesses and thoughts here as we do today's show. Also, a few other topics as well coming up today on in the podcast every single day. The Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford, and all Blue Sky locations around Mississippi. Those are up and down I-55. They're out in North Mississippi as well. They had a lottery winner. The Corinth Blue Sky location had the $3 million lottery winner yesterday or day before, or whenever it was. Wasn't me, wasn't Neil, but it was somebody there in the Corinth area for that. I think I saw where the Blue Sky can get like $5,000 or something. If you deliver the winning ticket, you get a little bit of money too.
Is that right?
Yeah, not $3 million, but $5,000.
I gave all my money to Missouri yesterday.
Did you? Oh, you were the guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. We'll talk about that too. So that's the Oxford Exxon lunch specials. Remember, Super Bowl specials coming up on Sunday. Ribs, pulled pork stuff. We'll get that to you here tomorrow to take advantage of those things coming into the weekend. And then, again, they will tell you about Clark Ford.
Yep, Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900 is the number. Call it. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. Right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote. The rest is up to you. You can shop that quote around. You can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do, and that's hop into a Clark Ford today. 662-257-1900. Guest will join on the Campbell Clinic hotline. If I can get there, it is. The Campbell Clinic's in Oxford now, 2608 South Lamar Boulevard, Suite 102, just across the street from the cottages at Hooper Hollow. The Campbell Clinic provides full-service orthopedic care, everything from sports medicine to foot and ankle surgery to spine and total joint care to pediatric orthopedics, physical therapy, and more. To book an appointment, go to campbellclinicoxford.com or call 901-759-3111. Walk-ins always welcome at the Campbell Clinic, Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. until 4 p.m.
Yes, Toby Keith passed away yesterday, the country music star. I know he'd been pretty frail. I thought he was kind of doing a little better. I know he had stomach cancer a couple years ago at least. I do not know if that is the primary or indirect cause of his death this week. But yes, definitely one of the more celebrated country music stars, just kind of public, really figures in the last couple decades for sure. There with him, I believe he was 62 years old, just so young. That's what kind of threw me off yesterday when I was seeing that. I didn't necessarily plan to start here today, but I was asked in the stream, and I had this information. I sort of meant to mention it at the end of the podcast yesterday. Jackson asking. Might have missed it, but opinions on no chair run for baseball student seats. Yeah, so what they're doing, they changed it up this year. There isn't the big camp out thing like they had last year that, honestly, we wrote about it, and Brian did a really good profile on the fandom that was surrounding that week, but it's kind of a safety hazard, if we're being completely honest. And what they're doing, so I've got the deal here, and as Ole Miss continues to grow with students trying to get out there, they are supplying the chairs in the student section this year. So what they are doing is, again, reading here from the email, says more Ole Miss students will now have the opportunity to experience the best of right field at Swayze each game beginning this season. Seating in the student section will be available on a game-by-game basis with chairs provided. Portable chairs will be supplied for each row of the section, courtesy of Ole Miss Athletics, and available on a first-come, first-served basis. They will need to bring their cooler or other refreshments to enjoy the section. No preseason setup. Section is general admission. ID gets you in. Gates will open 2 hours before weekend, 1 hour before midweeks. Again, the chairs may not be removed because they're supplied by Ole Miss. Coolers and additional chairs had to be removed at the conclusion of each game. No outside tents, that which has been the case. Grills and all that stuff not allowed as well. So, here's the deal. I've seen some people talk about how it changes the environment or whatnot. It doesn't. What it does, and I don't mind this, is in the past, the camp out thing was very crucial because you could leave your chairs there for the entirety of the season and you had those spots. What this does is make it where more people can get better seats for each game as you proceed through. So, I mean, you still first come, first serve, but I don't think it was necessarily fair to let you claim a spot for the entire season when you have the student body growing and the interest in that area as it's always been. So I don't mind this rule. It's not going to change the environment, the atmosphere. It's still going to be packed. When somebody said, well, they camp out at Sheshepskyville at Duke. Yeah, but that was to get season tickets. That doesn't supply you the mid-court seat on the first row every single game. So, yeah, a little different environment there. Got no issues, but that's the rule. That's why there is no camp out. That's why there's no preseason setup. They will line up for each game and every weekend moving forward. So, there's that.
I mean, I can try to manufacture some outrage about this, but
I think you agree with me or either don't care. Probably a little bit of both, so it's all good.
I'm really struggling to get worked up about it.
You can't find a pitchfork and go, no, absolutely not. Those pledges should be able to hold the spots for the Sigma News the entire season. Damn it.
I'm trying to generate some. I'm struggling. I mean, I'm thinking of Cardinal highlights, trying to get worked up.
No, they didn't take the grills out. You can't bring portable grills in. That's always been the case. There's no grill change at all. Yeah. Calm down, guys. It's going to be okay.
Probably don't need a lot of grills out there as it is. I'm not Mr. State Farm, but at the same time, sometimes you look out and you're like, well, it's possible that's not the greatest idea in the world.
Yeah. So, I get it. Anyway, that's the deal. No real outrage there, nothing, whatever. But that's the situation as we move forward here in this one. Gonna spend about 45 seconds on this, but you nervous for tonight, Neil? You wearing your Oxford stuff? Chargers and Tupelo tonight, 7:30, first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, always nervous for a playoff game. Either the season goes on or the season ends. And as a dad, I'm running out of seasons. So, yeah, I guess I'm nervous. If they win, I'll be even more nervous later in the week. If they win that, I'll be even more nervous. But sometime in the next 11 days, it's going to end. And so it's been a fun year. It's a really fun group of kids, and they've had a good year. And Carson's had a great season. And, be sad to see it end. You always hope. There's 16 teams in the playoffs, and 15 are going to end with the loss. And you hope your team's the one that doesn't, but the odds aren't with you.
How was he feeling this morning?
I'd kill to have his outlook on things. He's a pretty happy kid. He's probably a little more worried about pre-AP calculus right now than he is.
Oh,
I can't help.
Oh, I'm out on that to a level that I couldn't even explain. No, just nothing. I got nothing.
Laura will get worked up about his grade or whatever, and I'm like, well, that's more than you'd have, and it's more than I'd have. What do you do? Just survive it. But no, he's excited. He wants to play. He knows a lot of these kids on the Tupelo team, obviously. And I suspect as 7:30 rolls around, he'll
lock in.
The blood will be pumping pretty good.
Yeah. So let's get into this because they're probably going to have to coach each other through this a little bit with the Dartmouth situation yesterday. Dartmouth was really all in the news because first on the academic side, they started allowing the SAT again, and then a few hours later, the National Labor Relations Board said that their men's basketball players are employees and can move forward with this election to unionize. Okay, I guess let's go backwards a little as we start this for anybody who's somewhat new to this story. This is very similar to what happened at Northwestern back in 2014. Their football players received a similar ruling at the regional level to unionize. At the point, though, the temperature, everything was a little different in college athletics, or a lot different in college athletics at that point. On the national level, the NLRB, which is what we're going to call the National Labor Relations Board, said that it could not assert that jurisdiction and overturned that ruling about their ability to unionize. This ruling on Monday, and again, a couple different things here. This only applies to private schools. This does not mean that all state-run organizations would be divvied to the same organization in any way whatsoever. So keep that in mind first. This is only a private school matter. It is a huge point for the Ivy Leagues, obviously, because their entire conference is this, and they have a very similar situation at all the schools as they move forward. But anyway, so those are a couple things to keep in mind. In September, they had filed a petition to the NLRB to unionize through the Service Employees International Union, Local 560, had a hearing in October. And then the director, Laura Sachs, ruled that the players are employees because they perform work that benefits the school. The school holds significant control over their work, and players receive compensation through equipment, lodging, tickets, and other factors. Sachs wrote in her report, because Dartmouth has the right to control the work performed by the Dartmouth men's basketball team, and the players perform that work in exchange for compensation. I find that the petition for basketball players are employees within the meaning of the act. It will obviously be appealed. It does not automatically open the door for other college athletes to be considered employees in any way. It's simply a step forward. It's another thing that we're taking on here, and just what has become a litany of court cases. They're all over the country asking for all kinds of things. You got the House case that everybody's looking towards. You've got cases about back pay for NIL going back however long. You've got employment trials all over the country. I mean, it is a crazy situation right now with the legality portion of what is going on in college athletics. And, look, a lot here. Collective bargaining in pro sports occurs between a players' union and an entire league. Sachs ruled that a union can represent only a single team and can negotiate only with a single school. So there was very much a scope there to what that ruling was going to be. However, there's an ongoing NLRB case in California that's arguing that the Pac-12 and the NCAA should be considered employees of USC athletes. They think that affirmative ruling there could set the stage for similar cases all over the country. You've got a court case called Johnson versus the NCAA right now, arguing whether athletes are hourly wage employees. Again, I mentioned the House case, which is name, image, likeness pay for athletes who competed before 2021. That NLRB case in California could basically upend the entire business of college athletics. Dive
into that one a little bit if you can. That's the one that we need to be talking about probably the most. I know the Dartmouth thing is the new thing, but it is somewhat limited in scope, pretty limited in scope. It might be setting precedent.
Sure.
But, for example, I mean, we're talking to an Ole Miss audience for the most part. If an Ole Miss team decided that they wanted to follow this up, they would have to go to the local NLRB board or whatnot and file a request to be unionized.
But they're not a private school, so there's actually even the precedent is very limited in scope, because the immediate argument would be, no, you're a state institution, you don't fall under the same purview as that.
So I guess like Millsaps could do that or something. But the bigger case is the one that you're talking about. It's the one out in California that potentially shakes the whole thing up. I mean, like in a shaker with ice and shake it up, but it's a completely different thing when it comes out.
Well, I mean, because in theory, the House case, which kind of came into play at the end of last year, it's a class action status on this one for basically an antitrust lawsuit against the NCAA. The federal judge back in, I think, November ruled that the NCAA could be, the NCAA, I don't know, however you want to put it, could be on the hook for a potential multi-billion-dollar payout to all former and current college athletes. It's being seen in the Northern District of California by Judge Claudia Wilkin, whose previous rulings in NCAA cases paved the way for college athletes to profit from their fame and for schools to direct more money into their hands, by the way. So she is very pro-athlete in her decisions. It It was brought on by Arizona State swimmer Grant House in 2020. The lawsuit challenges the NCAA's remaining NIL compensation rules. They've also listed some other people as plaintiffs at this point too. And the ruling could, I say could, make more than 14,000 current and former college athletes eligible to claim damages if the NCAA loses this case. Plaintiff attorneys claim athletes who were restricted from cashing in on their fame before an NIL ban was lifted in 2021 are owed damages for what they could have been able to make. The attorneys are also targeting the billions of dollars in media rights revenue for the football and basketball players whose sports drive the value of those deals. In the wealthiest college sports conferences, a loss for the NCAA could require professional sports-style revenue sharing of multi-billion-dollar television deals for big-time college football and March Madness because they involve the use of players' NIL. It says here, the lead plaintiff attorney, he said, what we're going to be asking the court to do for the class is to strike down all current prohibitions on NIL, and so the significant is the rule that prohibits conferences from paying students for NIL. That is the gist and the main part of the case. Here's the deal. I've been kind of in the weeds on this as far as revenue for the last few weeks and what budgets look like and those kind of things. And it sort of strikes me, and it's probably not a great comparison, but in some ways I kind of feel like it is. We were talking yesterday about how everybody's probably a little bit at fault, but kids are throwing harder and worried about velocity, and everybody knows it's a problem, but the coaches only keep recruiting the players with the biggest velocity. The players in themselves go, nope, we got to throw harder because that's what's happening. And everybody knows we have this big macro problem, but nowhere in the micro do you try to stop and go, okay, here's the issue, so is anyone going to try to fix it? We just keep bitching that there's a big problem and everybody tears their elbows.
Because the person that says that gets railroaded. They just get run right over like a steamroll. I mean, they don't even...
So this is very similar because we can sit here and as an individual person, you can fight for all your rights and you're probably going to win in today's climate. There's no doubt about that in a lot of ways. You're also completely killing the sport of college athletics while you're doing so. So sure, go ahead, have at it, but you're also completely annihilating the system in every way imaginable.
There are so many people.
Because, last thing, Neil, there are athletes out here, and this is nonsensical to me. And again, go get what you can get, whatever, but be aware of the consequences of what you're doing. Mm-hmm. They're fighting for gross revenue deposits. How the hell does that make sense? I want my money before you pay your bills. That's not how revenue works.
No. Revenue is after all of your expenses. That's your take home. That's your revenue. If you're a wedding planner, okay? You're a wedding planner. You get $50,000 for the wedding. Well, yeah, your profit's going to come after you pay for your help, the vendors, mm-hmm. the supplies. At the end of that, maybe you walk with, $2,800 or $3,200. Yeah, that's your revenue. You don't get $50,000 and no. But look, the people, and I'm not making fun of anybody. I mean, I'd love to. It's just not worth it. It would piss people off. 90% of the people would agree with me, but the 10% that would get upset would be so vocal, they just would lose their minds. You're idiots. What you're doing is you're killing it. You do revenue sharing. Great. Football makes revenue. Men's basketball makes some revenue. After that, man, there's not much revenue. There's nothing to share. It's like, this is what Carson wishes would be on his pre-AP calculus this week. What is 100% of zero? If you make no money, there's nothing to share. So what's happening here, and there's going to be outrage when this happens, Chase. So if I'm not doing this anymore when this rolls around, just remember I said this, and you can go, boy, he can call that one. And this is easy. They're going to kill everything else.
Because look, and Grind makes a good point here. If they want to be considered employees, then technically wages are expenses.
Yes.
So you can't even revenue share off that.
So what they're going to do is when you say, okay, college athletics, treat this like a business. Okay. You're going to maintain the profitable arms of your business, and you're going to kill off the arms that are costing you money.
Everybody
Because
keeps talking. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
you've got to share the revenues. So you have to completely adjust your model. If you're Keith Carter and all the people over there at Ole Miss, Angela Robinson and all those people that have to figure out the budgets, okay, the way that they do it today will be obsolete. The day that this goes they'll have to completely shift to a different model, and that model will be more cutthroat, and it just will be. And so, what does it mean for women's basketball? She raised hell last week. Hey, you won't have to worry about it anymore, coach. Your sport won't exist at this level because no one will do it because it's financially idiotic in a business model. The way that you have right now is essentially this. It's a nonprofit. But if you have to share, however you have to do all that, what it's going to be is going to be the end of everything else. You're going to make those sports club sports, which means they're not going to be scholarship sports. You're going to turn this, it's going to make it where it's not part of Title IX anymore. And you're going to be able to run it completely differently. And the number
But you're going to have to win that case because they're going to fight for everything. They're going to fight for the revenue and all the sports to still maintain. Because look, JM's right in the stream here. He goes, counterpoint, all revenue goes into one pot and is shared by all athletes.
No,
sure,
it's
but
not.
How?
No, that's not. No one's going to do it that way. So you're not going to share the girls softball player's just not going to make the same revenue that a football player makes. It's not going to work.
Title IX has to go away for this to be a possibility. Both cannot be true at the same time. So you have to choose.
You can't get people to understand this. You can't integrate this model with this model. It doesn't work.
There's long been talk in athletic financial circles that in how many ever years you want to talk about I guess Olympic sports should be the word I use. The Olympic sports, the only way this is feasible is to make them basically largely funded university club sports run by only the university, not the athletic department. But again, that kills Title IX. I mean, look, that's the irony of all irony here is that it's all about getting football and basketball players paid what they typically or what they could possibly be owed because of the money they bring into the university. Sure, I get it. But what you're actually doing is a complete war on women's sports.
Well,
because you are annihilating it.
But Chase, there's 340 basketball programs?
Sure. Yeah, something like
you
that.
Got the net there. I don't know. Whatever's the bottom of it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all 300 of those programs, 340 or whatever, of those programs are not making tons of revenue.
Well, a lot of them aren't making any revenue.
So, I mean, the cat at Siena, there's not a lot to share. The basketball program, I'll use my alma mater, ULM, they're not making any money, Chase.
We're really talking about the 55 teams or how many ever there are in the Power
so
Five.
I mean, what you're doing is you're at the end of this is where I just come to the same conclusion over and over. What you're really doing here, and just be careful what you wish for. You're killing a lot of 362. They're not all making money. I feel confident saying that. What you're really doing is you're taking away a lot of opportunities for young people. A lot of opportunities for young people. You're costing a lot of coaches jobs. And it's nonsensical. It really is. But we're on this path. We started on it. There's no going back. Common sense is not going to kick in here. Pragmatism is not going to kick in here. Look at some of the other stuff that's happening in our country right now. None of it makes sense. So this is where we're going. And so the result will be, I think the result will essentially be the equivalent of carnage. And then a lot of people who their basic answer will be, I don't understand what happened. Well, you did it.
I mean, I think maybe even the whole Sankey Big Ten SEC thing could even be a precursor for the other sports too, where they go, hey, nonsensical to all this crap. We'll just figure out a model that kind of makes sense to keep this going to some level. And
so I think
whatever.
Wayback Reb is right here. The profitable sports will be affiliated in name only with the university and not subject to Title IX. And so you'll have the Title IX stuff will essentially, I don't know how all that exactly works.
Oh, I don't either, because no one does. Look, I was told
But the Title IX advocates, Chase, not to interrupt you, the Title IX advocates will fight this. They will fight this. And so maybe it just gets tied up in the courts forever.
Well, because in an effort to fight for revenue, they are fighting also to kill their sports, because the Title IX advocates want all the revenue thrown into a pile and given to every athlete equally, and it just doesn't happen. It doesn't work that way.
So
it's not going to work that way.
In other words, at the risk of being political, they want socialism.
To some degree, yeah. I mean, that is at least one argument in the pile, is to just simply throw all the revenue and then split it equally between all athletes, yes.
Socialism does not work.
But then the football and basketball people, men on the men's side, obviously fight that, and here we go round and round and round and round.
Because their product is productive.
I mean, look, two things here. One, I have a quote, and it wasn't the...
But let me say this real quick. I'm gonna finish this.
Yeah.
This is what really bugs me. It's the part that nobody gets. When you go, well, the women's athletes deserve to be paid. When you're getting a scholarship and free room and board and all of those things, Chase, you are getting paid. You might not be getting cash on hand, but as someone who's paid for one college and I'm in the middle of paying for another, I can tell you that does have real value. Like when the tuition payment comes out of my account, they take real money out of the account. Like there's a subtraction that occurs. It's why sometimes I want to scream at the idiots who are like, well, I don't really know what I pay in taxes. Well, look at your check stub, moron. That's real money. That was your money that disappeared. So if you don't have to pay for the college, if you don't have to pay for your tuition and your room and your board and your meals, well, that's basically money that never comes out of your account. That it does have a financial value. You are getting compensated.
And you are eligible for any NIL opportunity that you can find and execute.
But even if you never make a nickel of NIL, you are being compensated when your college scholarship is free, when your tuition is free, when your room and board is free, when your meals are free, when you get stipends. That actually does have value. So when people say, well, they're not getting anything, the hell you're not.
So, two things. One, and let me be clear, it was not the exact topic we were talking about, but we were discussing budgets and the fact that Ole Miss as an overall athletic department has an $8 million deficit for this past fiscal year that will just simply be made up. They had a surplus. It's whatever. They'll get it back in the next thing. It doesn't matter. The total amount of revenue matters far more than what the actual balance sheet looks like at the bottom. That's gross revenue for an athletic department.
Sure.
I mean, Keith gave a quote, and again, I don't have it verbatim in front of me, and I'm using it for something else later, but he essentially said, look, we know that some of these sports are going to lose money. We are aware of, we'd love $10 million in surplus every year, but the fact is we are giving opportunities to athletes, and we take on whatever's necessary to accomplish that. What he said is 100% accurate. It's the way athletic departments are run and frankly should be run. And it also is completely incompatible with what all these court cases are trying to do around the country at the same time. So that's where we are, is that right now things are run in a way that is a 180 to what we're talking about at the same time. And I had somebody that's, we'll call it prominent in academic and athletic circles for the country say that essentially we have 24 months to try to solve this. That this House case is going to go before a judge sometime early next year. It's going to take forever. And whether it be a settlement, a compromise, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. You figure out how you get to the end of it, but you don't let it go in front of a jury and risk that. If you can get it solved in some way that makes it manageable for all sides, then you have a chance. If you don't, the entire system is just freaking over at that point. Thought there were 18 to 24 months to keep this viable in any way.
What's your bet?
And it gets blown up.
You bet in 2 years it's viable or not?
I think that it is viable from the standpoint of two conferences get together and figure out a way to do it. It might just leave everybody by themselves in every capacity. I think this might not be a football and basketball thing. This might be a complete athletic department move with the Big Ten and the SEC.
That's what I think too. I think they break away and form a super league and just
and
tell
find ways to keep the Olympic sports going and whatnot. Because I mean, look, this is
Well, look, if you keep all the revenues and you don't have to share them with the Sun Belt and the MAC and the WAC and all that stuff, well, I mean, you suddenly can probably figure out a way to do some of it if people can have any degree of common sense. And I do think Greg Sankey's a common sense guy, and I think the guy at the Big Ten's got some degree of common sense. They're the ones that have the power. I mean, I've said this for a long time. There's no financial reason to do the NCAA basketball tournament the way that it's done.
no.
There's no financial reason to do it that way. Do you really need 16 seed ULM to get blown out by 1 seed North Carolina on Thursday? Do you really need it?
Yeah, or I bet people still watch if it's 16 seed Iowa State instead.
Of course. This year, 16 seed Vanderbilt. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Sure.
Have at it. Give it a shot. See what happens. 14 seed Arkansas against 3 seed Duke. Rematch. Sure. What the hell? Why not? It's Thursday. It's a bracket. You don't really have to have Sam Houston State in the damn thing. You could take the revenues from that tournament, which are massive. It funds the NCAA. You could, instead of sharing them 360 ways, you could share them 70 ways. Be a much bigger piece of pie.
Fixing my camera. I saw here, and I don't know what this looks like, and it's a side discussion of what we're talking about. I do think there's some merit to schools somehow prorated off what they supply to the country for the Olympics, the Olympic Committee paying some of the schools for that, because we're the only country almost that has the colleges supplement and basically train and pay our Olympians. I actually think the Olympic Committee should be on the hook for that. I think that's a viable thing.
Sure.
I do. I mean, it's not fixing anything, but no, look, I mean, it's a deal, and I don't want to, let me make this clear. Nowhere near knowing that this is even a possibility, but just an example. My daughter's 7 years old. She appears to be pretty proficient at tennis. I don't know if she's going to have the opportunity for a tennis scholarship in 10, 11 years. It's a decent chance she doesn't. I don't know. We'll see. I mean,
I'd bet against it.
Yeah, no. I mean, I get it. So, yeah, I was fixing my camera. It keeps blurring. I don't know.
I mean, like you see, look, you know where I'm going with this because you and I have had this conversation a million times. It's what people struggle with. Life's not fair. Everything's not fair. I can go find a 5-year-old and take him and get him extensive training from all the best people, day in, day out. We can be the only thing we focus on. And there's no assurance that he's going to grow up to be, if all he does is basketball for the next 11, 13, 15 years, decent chance he's not going to grow up to be Nikola Jokic. I mean, there's a real shot there. It doesn't work that way. There's a reason that Livy Dunn, who's a hell of a gymnast, by the way, there's a reason that she's making gazillions of dollars in NIL. She's hot. Okay? I mean, that people like that. People like beautiful
and she's
people.
An amazing marketer. It's not just looks. She is a phenomenal PR person.
She's phenomenal at PR. Yeah, I mean, she's great at it. But it helps that she's very attractive.
Sure.
It does. It helps that she's very attractive. If she were not anywhere near as attractive, but still as good of a marketer, she wouldn't make us. It's the total thing. Life's this way.
And it's also, I hate what we're doing.
I use this example all the time, right? My son's soccer team won the district title. Got home field basically, unless Lewisburg upsets Madison Central tonight, which, by the way, go for it, please. Unless Lewisburg upsets Madison Central tonight, they get home field kind of throughout, assuming they win, home field all the way through the north half. If the football team did that at OHS, it would be a big thing, and it'd be thousands of people at the game tonight against Tupelo. There won't be. There would be friends and family. Right? trying to beg, hey, if boys' parents come for the girls' game, will you guys stay for the boys' game? That's where we are. Is that quote fair? I don't know. It's the way it is. Soccer's not as popular as football in Mississippi. It's not a fairness issue, Chase. It's just a reality. If this were basketball, there'd be a lot more people at the basketball game tonight to watch a district champion play home court throughout the North half. Why? Because basketball is more popular in North Mississippi than soccer. Baseball, there'd be a lot of people there. Why? Baseball is more popular than it just is what it is. But the people in intercollegiate athletics who are fighting for this struggle with that concept.
HSC golfer says D3 schools don't offer scholarships or make money and still offer sports. The Olympic sports won't die. Ole Miss doesn't even offer hardly any. Yeah, but the D3 schools don't pay the salaries at every level. I mean, it would take to make that viable in the same way, it would take a sea change of salary differences across the board. You'd be firing assistant ADs and associate ADs, and I mean, it would that's not happening. It's not. They're not going to choose to cut every departmental salary by 85%. I mean, come on, that's not.
Well, and I'm sure at some of these departments there's some fat that could be trimmed, but
everywhere.
But most of the people that are doing the work, those are pretty full-time gigs, man. I mean, those are not 40-hour gigs.
And you need them to then promote to get the revenue and the money that we're paying to begin with. I mean, that's the thing. If you start trimming too much, then you're affecting the top line, which is the whole point of this entire conversation. Yeah. And I appreciate the comment in the stream. I'm not yelling at you. I'm just kind of hyper. But I don't know. It's just when you're watching something in real time disintegrate without a viable alternative, at least in front of us at the moment.
Without the people realizing that what they're fighting for is going to cause disintegration.
Yeah.
They're
so myopic that there's not a, hey, by the way, this over here, this isn't how it works.
It's why I think so many people get frustrated. Not to get political at all. We'll go right off this, but it's the immigration issue. It's complex. And when you act like it's not, no, it's just as simple. We should have this, everyone who wants in, we should let them in. Okay, but then what?
Mm-hmm. I tell you what annoys.
You start seeing the results of, and then what? And they're not really good.
And I'm gonna move on a second. We'll continue to hit this. We'll have a little more analysis out there nationally on what this possibly means, if this Dartmouth thing is a nothing burger or not as we move forward. I mean, as Neil said, I think the House case is a much bigger deal, and I've got some info on that I don't have sitting in front of me right now. We'll dive into that a little more as the week goes on. Well, I tell you what I hate, though, and it's kind of like Libby Dunn, and I hate how the outliers are used as the example. You know what I mean? We're basing everything off this poll of 0 or 100, and it's like, that is not relevant to anything that we are talking about. Like, you can't take the 1.1% of whatever and go, hey, that's what we're basing the numbers off of. It's like, no, they're an outlier for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, if she got that, then it's like, no.
Of course.
Caleb Williams was a lot more profitable than whoever. I mean, hell, Miller Moss on his own roster.
Of course. But imagine how much more profitable Caleb Williams was than like the number 4 men's golf player at USC. Nothing. I mean, I'm sure he's a wonderful kid, but come on, it is what it is. Again, it's the whole
that freshman women's basketball player at SC. I bet it's getting some damn good NIL deals. Jew or whatever her name is that had 50 something against Stanford the other day.
Sure,
she's a stud. So, speaking of basketball, yeah, go ahead.
They're just words that. They're words that people love to use because the word sounds good. Equity sounds good. It's just not real.
Ole Miss-South Carolina tonight, 5:30 there from Columbia, South Carolina. South Carolina 44 in the Ken Palm as of this morning. When I'm looking at it here, they are 19-3 overall. They have lost 2 SEC games. They lost 74-47. At Coleman Coliseum, but Alabama's getting into a habit of beating the hell out of everyone at Coleman Coliseum this season.
Yeah.
And then one they would definitely like back, they lost at home to Georgia 74-69. They have wins at home against Mississippi State, in Columbia, Missouri, in Fayetteville, Arkansas, at home against Kentucky, at home against Missouri, in Knoxville, Tennessee, and then away beating Georgia in Athens in the return game there. And they now face Ole Miss for the first of 2 games at home. The Gamecocks have Ole Miss at home tonight, and then they have Vanderbilt at home on Saturday before what will be a very difficult road assignment on Valentine's night in Neville Arena there in Auburn, Alabama. So Ole Miss and Vanderbilt this week. Ole Miss will have to play incredibly well. They need Sharp back. They're going to have to get much better inside because South Carolina can get in there and bully you in the post.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've watched South Carolina several times. I watched them beat Tennessee last week in Knoxville, which was impressive. I watched them just maul Kentucky at home, which was impressive. Yet I still have this suspicion with them that there's going to be some regression to the mean. Does that mean it starts tonight and Ole Miss wins on the road? I'm not saying that. In fact, if you made me predict, I would pick South Carolina. I think there's some matchup issues, as you just referenced, especially if Sharp is limited or can't go, and I don't know what that status is. But like South Carolina's 7-2, Auburn's 7-2. I like Auburn a lot more than I like South Carolina. I just have a feeling they're going to come back down to earth a little bit on the back half. Now they've put themselves in position, in credit to them. If they go 3-6 on the back half, they're in. They're in great shape. They've done a great job. Kudos to them. I mean, the wins in the first half count just as much as the wins in the second half. But I have a feeling that they've got a.
And their schedule is pretty tough after Ole Miss is not a given for them at all.
No.
They've got LSU at home. But outside of that, their remaining schedule at Auburn, Ole Miss away, Texas A&M away, Florida at home, Tennessee at home, Mississippi State away.
Yeah, it's going to be.
That's a tough close.
It's going to be tough.
They're such a weird metric team when you look at them analytically because they've been phenomenal from an efficiency standpoint. They're a number 58 nationally in adjusted efficiency on offense, number 42 nationally in adjusted efficiency on defense. They're one of the best teams in the country at defending 2-pointers. They're really good in the post. They don't allow a lot of easy buckets there inside the paint. But then I look at them and they get blocked like crazy in the post. They don't force turnovers hardly at all. So their defense is kind of packed in and plays a lot of bodies, but they're not out on the thing getting a lot of transition. It's just, I guess my point is, if you're right and there is a regression, you can sort of see how it happens and where it comes from because there's certain parts of the game that they don't do very well and they've just sort of overcome it. I mean, kind of like how Ole Miss shoots the lights out and they have this big record, but you look at them and go, they can't rebound. And at some point, that's a problem. So we'll see where that sits. Again, I would expect that Sharp gives them some minutes tonight. I've not heard any differently either way. But tough assignment. It's not a must-win by any point of the imagination.
No,
it's just an opportunity.
No, it's not. It's just an opportunity. It's not a must-win. The next must-win game is Missouri at home.
Yeah, you're 500 in the league after you beat Missouri at home, even if you go 0-2 this week.
Yeah, you'd be 6-6.
They're off on Saturday.
If they lost tonight, lost to Kentucky, beat Missouri at home, they'd be 6-6 heading into the final third of the season.
Mm-hmm. You take that.
Yeah, you'd love to be one over that. You'd love to be 7-5 at the 2/3 mark, but sure. Mm-hmm. Tonight's doable. They got to play really well. They have to shoot it well, and they cannot get mauled on the boards. They've got to hold their own. They've got to have a game where they lose rebounding by 4, not by 14.
It's the quote that Chris gave when they won at A&M that he was so excited about. Is he said, we were never going to out-rebound A&M. We had to rebound with A&M, was the way he phrased it.
Well, and even in that game, literally, it was they basically had a draw in rebounding in the first half. It allowed them to shorten the game. What killed them against Auburn, as much as Auburn's phenomenal performance in the second half, was in the first half when Auburn wasn't shooting the lights out. they gave up so many offensive opportunities, and you gave, I think it was 13 second chance points in the first half. I mean, you cut that number to 6, and instead of being up 9, you're up 16 at the half. Well, that's a different game, but you manage the game differently. It puts a different onus on Auburn. It might make it where Auburn can't go into the half and go, look, we have to pound the paint. Maybe you have to play the game differently. That's what killed Ole Miss Saturday. It was giving up so many offensive rebounds that, to Auburn's credit, led to open shots, which allowed them to kind of stay in the game when Ole Miss was shooting at a pretty high level.
Going to be a bit of a methodical game tonight. I haven't even looked to see what the line is, but the under feels kind of right here. Both teams take a lot of time on possessions and are absolutely really good defensively to limit the amount of quick points on a possession standpoint. Looking at it here, Ole Miss 297th nationally in possession length defensively, which is good. You want to be lower, and then South Carolina 344 on that as well. Ken Palm giving Ole Miss a 32% chance, so basically 1 out of 3.
Yeah,
tonight in this.
That's about right.
Game. Yeah, I don't feel bad about that. That feels.
That's about right.
I'm cool. Yeah, I'm looking at finding a line for you right now. 1 second. Yesterday, the only game in the country of the top 25 was Kansas State getting an overtime win over Kansas, 75-70 there in Manhattan. But that was a crazy environment last night.
Always
Hunter
is.
Dickinson 21, Terry for Kansas State getting 26 in that one.
A lot
South
of talk
Carolina
that Jerome
15th, by the way.
A lot of talk that Jerome Tang at Kansas State really wants to get out of there.
Louisville?
I'm sure he would love the Louisville gig. The rumor is that he is not the leader in the clubhouse for the Louisville gig.
Yeah.
That Eric Musselman is.
I feel like Eric would entertain that.
I think Eric would crawl.
Yeah. South Carolina 3.5 tonight in Columbia is the line. Over under total 138.5. So 3.5, 138.
Is it crazy that I kind of like the under?
Well, I told you, but that's a small under. I mean, 70-70 is an over.
Yeah, I know. I kind of like the under. I don't hate South Carolina minus 3.5. If I'm being honest, that feels like a little low. I wouldn't hate laying that. Kind of like South Carolina to win by 5 or 6 in a low scoring game. That's sort of what I anticipate.
Looking around the top 25, Kentucky giving Vanderbilt 9.5 in Nashville tonight. Over under 151.5. UConn is at home against Butler. They're giving 15.5 to the Bulldogs, who are playing pretty well all of a sudden. But UConn is, whew.
Oh,
I mean,
a rolling ball of butcher knives, but they are.
Would you
they
take?
Can hurt you in so many ways.
If I gave you UConn and Purdue, would you take that or the field?
Whew. Can I trade Purdue for somebody else?
You want Houston?
Can I have Kansas?
Yeah, sure.
I might be tempted.
Would you really?
Yeah. I mean, I love UConn now. They're kind of slump proof.
Well, they've had injuries and guys missing, and they just keep winning. I mean, they're not even healthy right now. And I'm going, oh, my God.
They can shoot it. They can beat you on the boards. They can beat you in transition.
And their house money after last year.
Yeah. I'm so scared. I would be so scared of Purdue just because.
Is it?
You get the wrong kind of officiated game, and all of a sudden it's just close. And
you're going to, because that's the deal. Look, whatever you want to say about the Chris Collins thing last week, Purdue is not going to get that whistle every time in the NCAA tournament the way they get it in the Big Ten. Because the Big Ten is just anticipating Purdue to beat the shit out of you at this point. So they're giving you every call that's whatever. It's where I have found that, and look, I really like some of his stories, his human interest stuff, so I continue to follow Greg Doyle at the Indianapolis Star. But he has made me hate Purdue basketball. Why do I give two damns about Purdue basketball whatsoever? I mean, I like my boy Adam Kuffner, like, go Boilers. But, He has made me hate Purdue in some ways. And I'm going, it's not about Zach Edey getting the foul call when he's in the paint. It's that what happens is they call this ticky-tack crap outside of that, which gets you into a foul situation, and then it emphasizes that even more. It's not about Edey's free throws. Purdue against Northwestern had 29 free throws that Zach Edey didn't shoot. Other dudes shot them. So shut up. That's not like... And Dole the other day, like, he took the halftime thing and goes, maybe Purdue just has earned this whistle. It's like, oh, shut up.
Oh, shut up.
Like, go anyone over the Boilermakers.
They lost to Fairleigh Dickinson or whatever in the first round. I mean, stop. Don't. You're not a victim. I mean, it just, God.
Oh.
He does make you hate some of the teams he covers. And then you feel bad about it because you're like, that group of kids and that coaching staff has done nothing to me to justify the hate.
Yeah, because like sometimes it's like Butler, and it's like, why in the hell is anybody hating Butler? Like, they're fun. Like, the Bulldog's cute. Like, what's the problem here? Like,
yeah, I mean, come on.
So I don't know. I think in the NCAA tournament, you can get an even whistle in a hurry, and they're done because they don't really do anything else. They just pound it inside and put it up, and it works. But Wisconsin gave them a hell of a game. The Badgers are pretty good.
Well, they're good now.
Mm-hmm.
They're sneaky good. Their metrics are pretty solid. Wisconsin's like they're a team on your bracket. If you want a team that everybody else isn't talking about, and you want to slip them to the Sweet 16, Elite 8.
Yeah, got a shot there.
They're a little bracket proof. They can kind of play different styles and do different things. They're not a team that like a certain team pops up on the bracket and like, oh God, that's it. The style got you. They can kind of do different things. Northwestern's the same way. They're pretty flexible.
Who goes further in the tournament? Alabama, Auburn, or Tennessee?
Okay, so see, Tennessee's that team that you worry a little bit about, some team that can really play a high tempo and shoot the lights out. They could get Tennessee. Tennessee's they're more versatile this year than they were a year ago. And in fairness to them, a year ago, they lost the point guard late in the season, and they really never had a chance to fix it. I really like Auburn.
Okay.
I worry a little bit about some of their guard play sometimes, but that might just be a little PTSD from previous seasons. Bama's thing is that at home, they're phenomenal. But they're playing a lot better. I really am interested to see the Auburn-Alabama game tomorrow night at Auburn. I mean, Alabama doesn't have to win that game to really impress me.
Mm-hmm.
If they make that game a 40-minute game and, say, lose by 3 or 4 points, you might walk away from that going, oh, okay, Alabama's real. I mean, because they here lately have looked real. And Auburn lost to them in Tuscaloosa and is going to want to beat the hell out of them. And that environment's going to be crazy. But to answer
Who's
your
Alabama's
question,
one conference loss?
who'd they lose to?
Because they're 8-1.
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
And
Keep going. To answer my question,
out.
What do you got?
I think I'd say Auburn.
Okay.
Probably the smart answer is Tennessee, because Tennessee can have a off game from one of their better players and overcome it. Like if Janai Broome doesn't play well in a tournament game, I just don't know that Auburn can win the game.
Tennessee and Knoxville is their one loss.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
I remember that.
91-71.
Yeah, Tennessee played really well, and it got away late.
And they have some non-con losses against good teams.
Yeah.
And they weren't playing as well at that point of the year.
Oates is not afraid to schedule.
Their losses are Ohio State, Clemson, Purdue, Creighton, and Arizona.
Yeah, fine.
No, there's no problem in that. The worst team of that bunch is Ohio State at 64 in Ken Palm. Neutral site. And it was in November.
Yeah. No, he's not afraid to schedule. He's one to watch too, by the way. There's a lot of rumblings about Michigan State and Nate Oates.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting.
That's a Michigan State. That's a blue blood basketball job.
Last thing on basketball, getting close to the show anyway. Story in the Athletic today about New Mexico, the Lobos. Obviously, usually pretty good, play in the pit. Have you seen the players on their team and like the weird connections to people?
Oh, I started the story, all the different,
Okay.
very eclectic.
Yeah, so I mean, their coach is Richard Pitino, Rick's kid, and they blew out San Diego State, who obviously finished second in the country last year, or in the title game against UConn. But their roster features Jamal Mashburn Jr., which is the Jamal Mashburn's son, former Kentucky NBA player, Jalen House, who is Eddie House's kid, Nelly Jr. Joseph, a Nigerian center who nearly didn't make it to the U.S. in time for the season and just got here and started playing basketball. Jamarl Baker Jr., a 25-year-old who's still playing college basketball. And then True Washington, who his nephew is Ty Washington, the Bucks center.
Oh.
Yeah, not the other way around. His nephew is Ty Washington. So, bit of a weird dynamic there. I'm not talking golf today, but yeah, Sammy's those other guys doing it. The Liv is on the verge of winning. I don't know exactly what it looks like or when, but they're on the verge of winning.
Well, we talked about this on McCready and Siskey yesterday. Tyler read me the leaderboard for the PGA event and the leaderboard for the LIV event and said, which one would you watch? And it was Liv. Yeah. I'd watch that. I mean, I know those people. Like the PGA, I only knew like 4 of the names. Mm-hmm. And I knew like 8 of the names on the other.
It's more complicated, but if I'm just putting a stake in a racehorse right now, look, it's kind of like the old adage that in journalism you don't fight with somebody who buys their ink by the barrel because they can just keep coming at you. It's hard to beat a company who has unlimited money. Like that becomes complicated when there's not a budget on the other side and they just pay whatever they want. So
and I said this yesterday, so I'll, at the risk of being repetitive, everything other than football these days is a niche sport. And so if you're losing in your niche to somebody that's spending more money and can do more things, things change. Just because the PGA dominated for 100 years or whatever it was, doesn't mean it's going to dominate the next 100. It's not how it works.
A lot of people will probably watch Bucks Suns tonight, but if you're needing something after Ole Miss and South Carolina that's not college basketball, good hockey game tonight. The Edmonton Oilers are at the Vegas Golden Knights, division rivals. Really good game there. Probably can get your hockey knowledge up for down the road when you might need it for the NHL playoffs. If anybody's
you're not staying up late to watch Thunder at Jazz. Come on, man.
No. What time was that game?
Like 8:30.
I think I was asleep at 9:40 last night, something like that.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, you said you can't sleep at all right now.
I just can't sleep. I lay in the bed and I wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. If I turn the wrong way, I'll wake up like in pain, and then I have to get back in a position where the pain goes away. And then, I don't know about you, but if I start thinking about anything, I'm cooked.
I woke up at like 2:30 this morning for a minute, and I was up for about 25 minutes. And it's funny you said that, because what I did was basically tell myself I am not thinking about anything. Like I sat there and actively tried to turn my mind off, and it wasn't even worry. It was like, hey, do this at 2:00 tomorrow, like random stuff. Where I'm like, what are you doing? Like, quit. And
I try these like mental exercises that are like boredom to make me.
Do you ever try the little like meditation apps or anything on your phone?
Yeah, but like if it's middle of the night, you can't turn that on.
I've got one app, and I don't know what it is, but it has like, and dude kind of sounds like Matthew McConaughey, but he'll like whisper a story to you. It'll put me out.
Really?
Like it's some random story he'll tell and whatever, and yeah, like I'm gone in like 10 minutes. Because what I've done, I found myself that I will fall asleep easier listening to like an audiobook or something where I don't remember where I was, because I just pass out while it's on, because it's just
So you
slow.
sleep with your AirPods?
I can. I mean, I will fall asleep. I don't necessarily mean to, but yeah. Well, they make headphones that kind of are for sleep. Like you can kind of whatever. They're not. AirPods will fall out, but
Yeah.
I've got a couple other things that don't bother me that I can put around my head for that. So
It's for me. It's just it's maddening, really, because my brain starts going on anything, and that's it. I can't.
And you've always been the guy who, if you wake up at like 3 a.m, you just get up.
Oh, I mean, I have a 20-minute rule, and here lately I have violated it because I'd have to find a crutch.
Mm-hmm.
Crutches. I'm waking her up. That's not fair.
Yeah.
And she's gonna be, what's wrong? What are you doing? Is everything okay? Where are you going? You're gonna fall. All that stuff. But like, if I were a little more mobile, yeah, there would have been multiple nights here lately where I would have been up and at 'em at 2:30.
We will probably get into the Super Bowl a little bit tomorrow. We really have not touched that at all. I see the media days are going on, things like that. I saw Travis was asked about Taylor a good bit yesterday. It was not oversaturation, though. Pretty proud of the media. Like, it wasn't crazy. They kept most things in context yesterday. It was. So she announced a new album apparently coming out here soon.
In April. Yeah. New
really?
album.
That quick?
Yeah.
She's a damn worker now. I mean, give her that.
I get.
Go ahead.
I'm not a Swiftie or whatnot, but like I see these people on the internet, and they're like, "She's not talented. She's not good." Listen, there's a decent chance that if she's packing arenas the way that she's packing arenas all over the country, people are building their vacations around her. People are planning to attend concerts a year in advance. She's doing something right, boys and girls. Can we please stop with the she's not talented stuff?
There's some proof of concept here.
I mean, if people worldwide are going to see you in the numbers that they go see her and Beyonce, there's a decent chance that they're both doing something right.
I mean, look, we could have had the situation. We're probably getting undersaturation because think had they booked her for the Super Bowl halftime show before they started dating, and then we got here and she's doing the halftime show. I mean,
wow. And maybe he could have come and proposed it right there at midfield.
I'm just saying. Chauncey, I was considering buying season tickets this year. If Ole Miss were to host a playoff game, do season ticket holders have first shot at tickets? That's typically the case for NCAA events on your home campus. Like baseball, obviously, you can get your tickets for regionals and things. So I would assume, I have not seen that question that verbatim, but I don't know why that would not be the case. Yeah, you would have some priority there. You would at least have priority through your points, but I would assume that you could keep your seat either way on that.
That would be the hottest ticket in the history of Ole Miss football.
It's why I put that in the teaser yesterday, is that as much as I want to go, no, you just want the buy. I understand wanting to have that game and that memory and that moment and that thing on your home campus. I completely get it. Like I don't know that I would choose that if you told me to pick one and you were automatically guaranteed that, but I get it.
Sure.
Yes, if he proposes to her on the field after the Super Bowl, poor Ian Johnson in Boise State, that's going to be relegated to like the 45th page from what happened back in the Fiesta that day. I mean, it long gone, Ian. It's good, but
how great would it be if he proposed to her on the field after the Super Bowl and she was like, "No, that'd be awesome."
It's not how we're supposed to do it. Stop.
I can't right now. I'm not there yet.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
I got to go back to Tokyo tomorrow. Got another concert, Singapore. Wherever we're headed.
Fantastic.
So, anyway. All right. We want to talk Super Bowl tomorrow. I want to get into Austin Simmons a little bit tomorrow. It's been kind of written down in my notebook for 2 days now, and I have not had to get to that yet. So, we're talking some Austin. He had a scoreless inning for the baseball team in the inter-squad yesterday. But
struck out too.
Yeah, he did. Now, look, he is hellaciously talented at both sports. It's worth talking about. Story up at Rebel Grove from a couple days ago if you have not seen that as well. So that's kind of the setup. We'll see what else comes as the day moves on. And then obviously we'll recap Ole Miss and South Carolina. 5:30 tonight. from Colonial Center there, the arena, whatever it's called, there in Columbia, South Carolina. So take care. Appreciate everybody and the stream as always, and we will talk to you again very, very soon.